Hello, my name is Huron Zashni, and I am here to talk to you about B.F. Skinner in our content knowledge and application post. The group members in this project are myself, Marie Benjamin, and Denise Bastos. To begin, we will go over the objective of the lesson. The objective of this presentation is as follows. During this lesson, students will learn how Skinner used Thorndike's ideas and translated them into this operant conditioning theory, and how preschool teachers use Skinner's positive reinforcement strategies to instill behaviors that are wanted and desired out of a child. The objective of this presentation is that students will be familiar and understand how operant conditioning works, what types of behavior modifications there are, the consequences, reinforcements, and punishments, and how they're used to shape the students. Once they will be able to use Skinner's positive reinforcement to shape the student's behavior in a positive manner. During this presentation, I will be talking about the content knowledge and some background information about B.F. Skinner, introduce a short video explaining his theory, and then Marie will be talking about how teachers can prepare to teach this style of positive reinforcement to children, including what materials may be needed in particular lesson plans, and also the students' expectations when it comes to learning how to behave appropriately. And then I will come back with a video that compares and contrasts operant conditioning with a similar theory called classical conditioning, and then I will be asking some questions regarding the presentation that just took place. So to begin, I'd like to talk a little bit about B.F. Skinner and the history behind operant conditioning. Before B.F. Skinner, scientist Edward L. Thorndike first discovered the idea of operant conditioning by experimenting with cats. So he found that cats would respond to noise in order to receive food. And so eventually they would perform the action that was needed because they knew that the reward would be the food. They became conditioned to perform this action because they know that they wanted to obtain the reward. So, psychologist and theorist B.F. Skinner took what Thorndike proposed and translated that into his operant conditioning theory. So, for example, dogs are a good example of species that function off of operant conditioning. How do dogs behave and act? Well, when they hear the leash, they know that they're probably going on a walk soon, or they might hear the rustle of their food bag and know that they're going to get fed soon. So those are just some ways that dogs react to the type of conditioning that they've been taught and what their reactions are. So Skinner attributed the behavior of those dogs and the cats that Thorndike experimented with a natural desire in humans and animals to want to behave a certain way to receive a specific reward. So we behave in a way that is either negative or positive, and depending on the way that we behave is the outcome of the reward that we receive. So if we behave positively, our reward is positive. If we behave negatively, then we would have a negative consequence. How do we relate that to early childhood education and the preschool classroom? So for the young child who is just learning their abilities, their skills, gaining their confidences in their own self-concept, testing their boundaries, and understanding what their actions may do for a certain child, or an action may cause for themselves, they're learning that most of their actions, while it has a consequence, has no real lasting impact. So to prepare a child for a lifetime of behaviors that they must learn and mold into themselves, many preschool teachers use Skinner's positive reinforcement portion of the operant conditioning to instill strategies on how to teach a child to make the choices that they want in order to receive the consequences that they would want to receive. This particular style of behaviorism or conditioning can also be referred to as a token economy. By offering the child a reward or something to look forward to in order to see repeated behavior, the child may continue to do that behavior because they know at the other end a reward or treat is forthcoming. So this reward or this token economy encourages the same behavior that was mentioned above with Thorndike's experimentation with the cats and responding to the noise in order to get their food. In the same way, with early childhood children or young children, you're able to use positive reinforcement to condition the child to behave in a certain way. There are negative reinforcements and negative consequences to this type of theory. Skinner suggests that maintaining a goal of only using positive reinforcements to continue to encourage the positive behavior creates the better, well-rounded child versus them knowing that certain things that they do are not supposed to be done, and so then they get negatively reinforced, and that doesn't promote the positive behavior to come out. As that goes on, as preschoolers learn and appreciate how much they are valued for the decisions that they make and the actions that they choose to do, then they're more apt to behave positively so that the classroom environment can be a happy, safe place for all the children. At this time, we're going to watch a little video about B.F. Skinner that explains his operant conditioning a little bit further.
Operant conditioning is a type of learning where the consequences of your behaviors shape your future behaviors. Those consequences may be either a reinforcement or a punishment. We will be focusing on the following terminology. After each example, we'll see how the terminology can fit into this chart as to whether a stimulus is being presented or removed, and whether the subsequent behavior increased or decreased. For our first example, we have a student who is working diligently on her schoolwork. As a consequence, the teacher could show his appreciation for her hard work by providing positive feedback. In return, the student continues to work hard. In that example, we had a stimulus being presented, which caused behavior to increase. Therefore, we would call this positive reinforcement. For our next student, we again have a good student who is working diligently on her coursework. As a consequence, he could remove some of her work, such as dropping a quiz or removing a homework assignment. This would make her happy and want to continue to work hard. In this example, a stimulus was removed, that was the quiz or the homework assignment that was being removed, in order to cause the student's good behavior to increase, which would be negative reinforcement. For our third example, we have a student who has fallen asleep during class. As a consequence, the teacher may get upset and verbally scold the student to wake him up. The misbehavior of sleeping would then stop and the student would start to focus on classwork again. In this instance, a stimulus was being presented, the verbal scolding, in order for the misbehavior to decrease. So we would call this positive punishment. In our last example, we have a student who is using their cell phone during class. As a consequence for this misbehavior, the teacher could go over to the student's desk and confiscate the cell phone. The student's misbehavior would decrease and they could focus on their work again. So, due to a stimulus being removed, the misbehavior decreased, which would be negative punishment. And those are the basic types of reinforcement and punishment.
At this time, there will be a video clip of Marie Benjamin and her portion of the assignment regarding teacher preparation, materials needed, and students' expectations.
Hello, this is Marie Benjamin, and I'm going to talk about how teachers preparation, materials, and what the expectations are for the students. For a presentation, teachers need to make sure that in the classroom that they are prepared, all the materials are prepared, they are on time, whatever lesson they're going to teach. is ready to be teach for the day. If you having a PowerPoint before student come, you have your PowerPoint check. You make sure that everything is working, everything is where they need to be, and all seats are prepared for the students. And when students come, they have all the materials they need. If they need pencils, if they need to have pens or notebook, that everything is exactly where they need to go. And students know where to go to get whatever it is that they need to get done. Also, the expectation will be that you expect your students to know where to get materials, you expect students to already know where they're sitting, and you expect students to already familiar with how the environment should be. If they're going to have a small circle, so everybody know what circle. Some teachers have every student in a different circle. Sometimes you change your circle, but you have to tell them how they're going to change it. If you're going to do it clockwise, or if you're going to call by names, or if you're just going to do by numbers. So all these are ways that you expect your students to already know and be familiar to what is it you're going to do. Student expectation should be that students are on time, they're ready to listen, they're ready to learn, and they are they know what you're doing, and they know what is it that you're expecting from them. This is what you should always expect. If you prepare, you come to class prepare, you come, you already have whatever you're going to teach ready, and you have
At this time, before we close the presentation, there will be a compare and contrast video. It's important to highlight classical conditioning, as there are some similarities and differences when it comes to the classical conditioning theory and B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning theory. And I believe as a future early childhood educator, it's important to know the difference and be able to distinguish which theory works best for each individual teacher in the classroom and the students that are involved.
Today we're going to learn about classical conditioning. This is Dave. Hi, Dave. When Dave was little, Dave went to the dentist to get a filling, and the filling caused Dave a lot of pain. Poor Dave. In this situation, the dentist is the unconditioned stimulus because she caused David pain, and the pain that Dave felt is the unconditioned response. Now, when Dave is an adult, he goes in for a routine dental checkup. But Dave still feels a lot of stress. In this situation, the routine dental checkup is the conditioned stimulus, while the stress that Dave feels is the conditioned response. Now we're going to talk about operant conditioning. So this is Susie, and this is Susie's teacher. Now when Susie does really well in school, her teacher gives her a treat, or her teacher takes away a bad grade. In this situation, the treat that Susie gets is positive reinforcement, because Susie gets something that she wants, and the bad grade that gets taken away is negative reinforcement, because Susie loses something that she doesn't want. Now when Susie's bad in school, her teacher makes her stay late after school, or her teacher takes up her phone. And in this situation, the time that Susie stays after school is positive punishment, because Susie gains something that she does not want. And taking her phone up is negative punishment, because Susie loses something that she does want. I hope you learned about conditioning, and thanks for watching.
Created using Powtoon.
At this time, we've reached the end of our presentation, so we have some discussion post questions that we would appreciate the viewer take the time to listen and think about and come up with some answers on why you think that the operant conditioning theory and B.F. Skinner's positive and negative reinforcements ideas are helpful and suitable in an early childhood classroom. So the first question is, what is the goal of the intended lesson? The second question is, define operant conditioning and why is it important? The third question is, how did B.F. Skinner use Edward Thorndike's ideas? The fourth question is, why did B.F. Skinner attribute that behavior to the desire of human and animals regarding the experimentation that he did? Number 5 is, why do preschool teachers use Skinner's positive reinforcement? Number 6 is, how do preschool teachers, Number 6 is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this presentation and why? And number 7 is, if anything, what would you suggest that we do differently? And number 9, how organized was the information presented? I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation on B.F. Skinner and operant conditioning. I know, as someone that enjoys being in the early childhood classroom, I think that children respond very well to positive reinforcement, and they're able to use that intrinsic motivation to adapt their behaviors into a way that is looked upon positively by their teachers and by their classmates. And so while some may think that B.F. Skinner's theories were a little extreme at some points, I think that if you take out all of the benefits of his theory and implement those in the classroom, you'd see a lot of rewards among the children and how they behave and how they act and how they mature throughout the course of the school year. Thank you so much for watching.